How do you train your salespeople? How do you train your staff not to get caught up on the media gratification and just focus on hitting those base hits and just become an assassin with time on their skills? How do you sell that to the guy?
So my expertise is helping business owners and human beings pull time and money forward so that they can get time and money to actually work for them versus them working for time and money. So that's really the art, and people don't understand that. So the more time and money you can pull forward, then the more money and time multiplies while you're doing what you're doing. And I think people, they want time and money now. They want the money now, but they never actually understand that if they get the money right now and they go blow it on a Lambo or they go blow it on something, they're not getting money working with time for them.
Welcome to the King's Code Podcast. Welcome to the King's Code Podcast. My name is Raul Villacis, and I'm excited today because we have the 10X man himself, Brandon Dawson, is going to talk to us about how to scale our business, how to 10X our business, most important, how to build a kingdom, how to build an empire. So, Brandon, welcome to the King's Code Podcast, brother.
Yeah, thank you for having me on your show.
Listen, I'm excited for this conversation because selfishly, I wanted you to be here for my own benefit as well, because I'm looking to scale our business, and we have multiple businesses that we have here at the Next Level Experience. So, the first question for you is, tell us a little bit about how you got started. How did you decided to become an entrepreneur? What was the background that you had?
I was working as a sales manager, and I had a large group of sales team members, and I was in my mid-20s, and I was sitting at the table with a bunch of 50, 60-year-olds that were the managers for other departments and divisions, and I was making as much money as them. And I decided one day, I'm not going to sit trapped in a corporate environment where I'm already making as much money as these people, because the owner of the business told me they couldn't pay me more, even though we generated a lot of sales. So I was like, I'm going to do something different. I had a brand new newborn. I had a 2.5-year-old, and I literally walked in December 15th, 1995, resigned my position, sold everything I had, and decided I was going to some way, somehow own my own business.
Man, that takes a lot of guts, man. You had security. You had the security of somebody paying you bills, but were you in commission, or were you had a salary as a sales guy?
No, at the time, I think my base was $85,000, and I was making about $150 a year. And I created a program that should have paid me like $400,000 or $500,000. And the owner said, "No, I can't pay that to you. That's more than any of my guys make." And that was kind of the moment where I was like, there was other things going on at that time, but I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to be trapped in an environment where somebody can dictate how much I can make, especially when I thought I generated the results. So then it's like my confidence was high, because I dropped out of college in my first year and moved from Portland, Oregon to Atlanta, Georgia. And I didn't know anything about the South. I'd never been there. And I was selling hearing aids to doctors out of the back of my car, traveling around 11 states. And that was the best experience for me, because I just learned to be self-sufficient, get away from the family, do my own thing, figure my way around, using MapQuest and an atlas to figure out where to go, because there was no GPS back then. And I just learned to self-survive, and so my confidence was high that I knew no matter what, I could take care of myself. So I was unwilling to be trapped in a situation to where I was going to get dependent on somebody taking care of me, because I watched that with the older guys, and I was like, I don't want to be that. So I might as well make the decision now. And so I knew I wanted to own my own business, but I had a different problem because I didn't have any money to buy a business. So I needed to be creative.
Yeah, and I'm smiling because I remember the times with the MapQuest, right? A lot of the guys who probably are in their 20s have no idea what the fuck we're talking about MapQuest, right?
Yeah, MapQuest, though, that was an innovation, because before MapQuest, it was an atlas.
Exactly. And I remember, I was training my sales guys, because we do some sales training as well here. But I was telling them, listen, I'm going to give you a book that my mentor gave me. And my mentor gave me this book, and he said, if you read this book, if you actually use this book every single day, you're going to make millions of dollars in sales. And I couldn't wait, man, to read that book. So I went home and opened up the box that he gave me in, and the book was The White Pages. He goes, go ahead, start dialing, man, The White Pages. So when I said that to my sales guys, they're in their 20s. They're like, what is that? I want to get the white page. Googling white pages. I want to buy that book. So that's old school.
In the complexity of business. Now, people are going to watch this and be like, these two old timers. In the complexity of business, my CRM when I moved to Atlanta from Portland, Oregon, my boss told me this was my CRM. Drive into a town, go to a phone book, open it up for hearing aids and rip all the pages out, go back to your hotel room and call to set appointments to tell people you're in town and you want to meet them. That was my CRM.
That's it, man. So let's talk a little about that, because I think that a lot of people complicate their sales process, especially now. Like, you started in sales. I believe sales is the foundation of every businessman. If you're a businessman and you don't know how to sell, it's just a matter of time that you're going to go out of business, unless you partner with somebody that really knows how to sell. So, you do a lot of things. You do a lot of speaking. You have a lot of companies that come to you. What are you seeing right now when it comes to the complication of sales? Because I see a lot of people, looking at, I have to build a click funnel. I have to have a video. I have to do this. But, I'm from the school that, sales is there's a foundation principles of sales that no matter what you do, if you're not good at that, you're going to fail. So let's talk a little about that. How do you train those guys in sales to actually just stick to the foundations?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I do notice that a lot of salespeople today, are sitting in front of their computers doing this and looking at stuff. In the old days, I just picked up the phone. I had a list that was a mile long, and I would go every Wednesday from noon to 6:30, and I would get this list from the company, and I would just pick up the phone and start calling phone numbers saying, hey, we have hearing aids on special. Do you have any hearing aids in stock? Do you need any hearing aids in stock? And one of the things I found for me was that really developed a skill set in itself, because I made it a game. And it was the number of calls that allowed me to get fluent in the conversation. Whereas salespeople today, they want to hunt and peck and find the perfect person to call on the computer, and they never actually make enough calls that they get the rhythm, which is why I partnered, to be honest with you, with the true 10X man, Grant Cardone, because he is the world's leader in sales training, and he's methodically laid out how he's become the number one sales person and sales trainer in the globe. And people say to me, oh, he is a car guy. And I'm like, yeah, he's a car guy that's figured out how to raise almost $1 billion of crowdfunding, which nobody else in the globe has been able to do, and buying over $4.5 billion in real estate in the last 3 years. So just the car guy has converted his skills to pioneering in so many different vehicles and avenues of wealth creation that, like, if I wanted to know how to become unbelievably successful, I would go back to the genesis of what the person that is the best example of that's done. And I would do that 1,000 times over and over and over and follow those footprints. For me, that's how you develop a sales team. But most people are scared to just go out and be aggressive and make the calls and stuff. So when you train them how to do that and they start finding success, I see people's whole disposition and life change when they're scared to death and they start breaking through and they start doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it and start getting better at it, breaking through, and then they start finding success. I watch them evolve from the person that started that process to someone with a lot of confidence, because there's no better confidence builder than when you can personally develop and create a higher impact. And I think sales training, to your point, is the genesis of all that. Most people are petrified to communicate with other people, and they don't work on that skill set. So 97% of all businesses fail under 100 million in size. Within 10 years, 2/3 of them will fail at a 31.5 million within the first 5 years. And it's because they're technically inclined to try to deliver a product or service, but they don't have any sales skills. Yeah. And so they just fail.
Sales is the oxygen for the business. I have a 16-year-old son, and what I told him, he doesn't want to go to college. He's like, Dad, I'll go to college if you want me to go to college, but I'll tell you right now, like, I'm not, going to be a doctor. I'm not going to be a lawyer. He wants to be an entrepreneur. So he's 16 years old. He has a couple of side hustles here and there. What I told him, I said, if you could master the skill of sales, you will never go hungry. If you just master the skills of sales, man, you're gonna have a job, guarantee, if you want a job. But also, if you're gonna start a business, you have to learn how to sell. And what I'm struggling with, teaching them on how to sell is the immediate gratification, right? Like these kids, or not necessarily these kids, we all want things right now. Like, we used to shit on millennials before. Now millennials now are not the youngest guys. Now we have the Z generation, right? Or the next generation. And now we have to realize it's just human behavior. Like, we all want the immediate gratification. How do you train your salespeople? How do you train your staff not to get caught up on the immediate gratification and just focus on hitting those base hits and just become an assassin with time on their skills? How do you sell that to the guy?
So my expertise is helping business owners and human beings pull time and money forward so that they can get time and money to actually work for them versus them working for time and money. So that's really the art. People don't understand that. So the more time and money you can pull forward, then the more money and time multiplies while you're doing what you're doing. And I think people, they want time and money now. You know, they want the money now, but they never actually understand that if they get the money right now and they go blow it on a Lambo or they go blow it on something, they're not getting money working with time for them. And so I talk a lot about the 3 T's: transactional, transitional, transformative. So what I do with business owners or high performance individuals that want to crush it in their career is I get them to go, because see, all of our activities today are based on our present level of awareness. It's like what we've experienced mostly by pain have conditioned us. And then those thoughts and ideas have been projected onto us by other people, like our parents and stuff. Oh, get a good job, go to school, have kids. You know, it's like everyone wants to tell us how to live our life based on their comfort level. So our present level of awareness as human beings is based on all that conditioning of our environment, the things projected onto us, and then our own pain. So what I teach people to do is say, okay, let's just put a pin in that and accept it. I call it the 4 A's: acknowledge it, accept it, don't resist it, take action towards what you want. And then as you start gaining traction, attack it, attack speed. So the idea is I take people and I say, okay, let's, and your listeners can do this. Take a piece of paper out on the left side, write down kind of where you're at and all kind of your false limited beliefs. Like, oh, I can only make so much money. Oh, I'll never be good at this. Oh, I don't know how to be an entrepreneur. Oh, and write all that, because that's all your false beliefs. I mean, that's just BS. On the right side, fast forward 10 years from now and write down what your life would look like in your ideal scene. So, maybe in 10 years, I'd have my own jet. In 10 years, I'd have a business that would be really well respected. In 10 years, I would be super respected. All my friends would say, I can't believe you went and did these amazing things. Now, don't get lost in the details, because whatever the amazing things are doesn't really matter right now. So how would you, because what I get people to do is to go out in that 10 years and talk about it. Okay, so let's assume let's pretend now we're out that 10-year point. Now at that 10-year point, what are you known for? What do you know? What's your confidence? What are you known for? What have you done? Let's talk about that. How do you visualize that? And get really clear and very succinct. And most people would say, see, if they were in their old circle, they'd say, I want to do this and this and this. And people say, that's stupid. You're crazy. You're not smart enough. You'll never do it. But I try to get people, look, who cares what anybody around you says? 10 years from now, how do you see yourself? And I try to get them to paint a very concise picture to the point where they're like, this is what I look like. This is what I've done. This is what I've known for. This is what people write about me. This is what my book says about me. Now, the art of that is getting that crystallized, that 10-year plan, that ideal scene. Now, go back to your present moment. And every time you're going to take action and make a decision, ask yourself, will that move me to what I picture? Will that move me to that ideal scene, that future state, that person I know I can become? Will the actions and the decisions I make right now, is it moving me towards that, or is it moving me away from it? Now, in the moment when I'm like, I don't want to make 200 calls. I don't want to, I'd rather go out to the bar at night and hang out with my friends and drink. I don't want to go home and train on Cardone U. I don't want to go take that class on financial education and learning how to manage money. And I'd rather go do something fun with my friends. Like, every little decision you make, is it moving you towards that future state, or is it pulling you away from it? I promise you, if you start making decisions in the present moment based on how you see yourself in 10 years, crystallized in your mind, you will move closer to that 10-year target than if you keep doing what you're doing based on all your half-assed wired programming and all your failures and all the projections of what you should or shouldn't be doing, or how you should or should. If you could just get that future state of yourself and then start taking small steps of incremental improvement, forcing and training yourself. It's just like working out. The first 6 days of new training is going to be hard. By the 7th and 8th and 10th, at some point by the 30th and 60th day, You starve to go train. You want to do it because your body has evolved and adapted. And I think people just don't go through that exercise. So what I do is I teach people how to do that. And then I give them the structural aspect of making those technical movements.
So what I found, Brandon, is that, when you were 21, when you left the company, because I started my company when I was 21 years old, it's easy for us to, when we don't have nothing, it's easy for us to dream, 10 years from now, right? It's easy for us to kind of create that vision. And what happens, and I wanted you to talk to this because I see a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with this. What happens when you make 200, 300, $500,000, or even $1 million, right? And then you start getting comfortable. And then you start losing that vision. And you start saying, fuck, I'm 45 years old. I'm not really going to become a billionaire. I'm okay being a millionaire. Or I'm not going to buy the jet. I'm okay, flying first class. I'm not really gonna create what I wanted, but I'm comfortable doing this. I think that's the most dangerous place for men to be. And what I see in the culture is that we become sedated warriors. Right? There's a lot of sedated warriors, a lot of guys who talk a good game and they feel that they're doing good, but inside they still have insecurities, they still have those doubts, but they mask it with their current success, not knowing that, listen, in this market, nothing is promised. Just because you made $1 million or $10 million, last year, like we're in the middle of a pandemic, we're starting a war right now with all those things that are happening. What do you say to those guys who think right now in their mind, like, hey, listen, I'm good. Brandon, I don't need to 10x my business. I'm good. I'm good with 2xing, my business. What do you say to those guys to get them to push themselves to not break that limited belief, to realize that, man, there's a lot more for them to give still?
Well, first of all, when people tell me they're good, I agree with them. I say you are good. But let me tell you how I evaluate success. There's poor, average, good, great, excellent, and remarkable. So good is good. It's just one step above average. So if you're good, I'm good that you're good. The question I have for them is, what do you need to do to be remarkable? And what is it going to take to get there? And when they say, yeah, but no, you don't understand. I'm making $500,000 a year. I got it figured out. I got my boat. I'm settled. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Well, good for you. Like good's one step above average. So if that's enough for you, then it's enough for me, because I'm actually not interested in spending my time talking to people who think they're good. I'm interested in helping people become remarkable or become excellent. And that has to be defined. So if good is defined as your present state, then what would be great, excellent, and remarkable be? And what would those results look like? And then I get them to start framing that instead of excusing it. Because here's the thing, complacency is average. So the only people that actually think they're good are people who are running with the same group of people who told them they probably could never do what they did. So they're doing more than their friends or their family. So they think they're good. Well, I don't ever want to live in a good state. I'm only on this earth for a certain period of time. I want to give it everything I have. I want to impact as many people as possible. And the other thing is, when people say, no, I'm good, I'm like, you are good. That's awesome. But do you have a different calling? Do you have a higher calling? Because you've managed to get yourself, that's me, leadership. You managed to get yourself to good, but you're so selfish because you're not helping anybody else. Because if you're not an example and you're not pushing yourself, other people won't follow you. So instead of, my measurement's not about how good I am. It's how good or great or excellent or remarkable I can help other people become. So when people say I'm good, it tells me that they're entirely shut off to creating a much larger impact. And what's sad about that is they actually had the talent to get themselves into an upper percent of success, and they're not willing to go further and share that with other people and help them do that because they're good. So if you've got a selfish perspective and you're happy, then there's nothing wrong with that, because I also don't judge other human beings. Good for them if they're happy and they're good. But I don't ever want to be happy, and I don't ever want to be good. I want to be ecstatic, and I want to know I'm giving it everything I have. And I want to know, when I learn how to do that, my higher mission, my higher calling is how many other people can I teach and help to create that impact? Because that's really my higher calling. It isn't about me. It's about how wide and how deep I can go in helping others succeed. And that is my mission. And if that's not your mission, and your mission's like, look, dude, I just don't want to have a job working for somebody else. I want to make $250,000 to $500,000 a year, and I've arrived, then God bless you. I mean, it's not for me to judge that. But if you have the talents to do that, You've already done the hard part. Now the actual easier part is going out and finding 1,000 people and teaching them to do the same thing and get a little piece of everything they do. Then you become wealthy. And so most people that are good or great feel comfortable, but they're one step way away from having massive wealth. But the thing is, they've already done the hard part to get it. They just don't know it.
Solid. I mean, listen, I think you're speaking my language, man. It's like legacy. Like when a man doesn't have a legacy, if they're already taking care of themselves, that's stage one. You know, that you graduated from being a peasant to becoming a warrior, right? You have the warrior mentality, you have the money, you know how to create some money. But, you know, the king creates a legacy. The king creates an empire. The king is not just worried about himself. He has a whole village, a whole empire to take care of, right? So has it been a time in your life, because I talk to a lot of men who go through the sedated warrior stage. It's been a time in your life when you question your certainty, when you question your purpose, and what got you out of that tunnel, what I call that the tunnel. You know, a lot of people call it midlife crisis. I look at it, there's no crisis, there's only opportunities, right? So the midlife crisis for me is an opportunity. I went through it. I almost sabotaged my marriage. I almost sabotaged my business. I was drinking every single night. But I took that opportunity for me to really develop myself. So have you gone through a time when you had that tunnel, you were in that dark place, man, probably depression or insecurity or doubt, and then you broke through? And how did you break through to get to the other side?
Yeah, so there's two specific points in time, and I think this is interesting. I think for people to really connect to something, they need two things. They need context and they need contrast, right? So if somebody listens to me talk today, they're like, oh, this guy, he's pushed, he's made it, he's successful, he's worth hundreds of millions, blah, 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 blah. So, but let me explain something to you. There's 2 points in my life. One was when I took my first company public at 29, youngest guy to do it, did all these things everyone said was never possible. I broke through every glass ceiling. I was on top of the world. And then I get a call one day from my private equity group who tell me they're selling the business out from underneath me. They fire me. And I go from having a $12 million net worth at 32 years old to having a $200,000 net worth and a family and trying to figure out what the hell just happened. And that was a very difficult time for me, because for 7 years, I managed to hit every goal that I ever said. And then all of a sudden someone just took it away. And because I made technical mistakes and they lost their confidence in me, although I was so caught up in intellectual ignorance and intellectual arrogance because of the limited success I had. But since I was measuring that from no success, I thought I had arrived. So I was one of those guys that's like, I'm good. I'm crushing it. I don't need guidance. I don't need advice. And when you get in that state, you actually stop listening to people. And so I already know and you know this, because I know that's where you're going with it. When someone's telling you they're good and they got it, they're just one step away from failure because they're not living on the right side of the balance sheet. So left side of the balance sheet's intellectual ignorance, intellectual arrogance. Right side of the balance sheet is intellectual awareness and intellectual curiosity. And if you're not curious and you're not aware, you're only one bad decision away from a disaster. And I know that because I lost everything and had to restart. In fact, I lost my first marriage. I lost my business. It all happened at the same point in time. And so I was a disaster. So I had to really reflect on what I was doing or not doing, how I was being or not being, that caused almost every aspect of my life to collapse in a narrow window of time. And that was between 2000 into 2001 through 2002, the end of 2002. And I had to do a hard reset. And thank God I had some great mentors, because for about 18 months, Grant would say, you're being a little bitch. My buddy would say, you're being a drainer, because all I would do is be a victim. Like, I can't believe they sold it out from underneath. I can't believe they screwed me over. I was so close to succeeding. I can't believe this. This is unfair. That was unfair. And my closest friend finally said, dude, if you don't, you were the most amazing person, fast thinking, creative, blow through glass ceilings, confident. And now you're like such a drainer. I don't even want to be around you. So if you don't change and accept what you did to cause those problems, you're never going to evolve to the abilities that you truly have. And so now, leading up to that crisis, I would have told you there's no way I'm ever going to go backwards, because I was having so much success so fast, overcoming every single obstacle, blowing through it. People would be like, I cannot believe every day. I can't believe you did that, pulled that off, Dawson, blah, blah, blah. And then it all went away. And then I was basically just a drainer, little bitch, loser for about 2 years, until my buddy got my mind right, started feeding me. I started identifying where I was weak. I was weak in leadership. I was weak in financial understanding. I was weak in operations. I was weak in understanding human nature and other people, because I was so self-absorbed in what I needed to do to survive. And so it wasn't that I was intentionally being ignorant or arrogant. It was a survival mode for me. So when you're in that warrior state that you're talking about, it becomes survival. You don't want to go back. So you start becoming very dependent on yourself, and you start shutting people out instead of going, who do I need to look to now? Who do I need to take guidance and advice from now? Who's the higher evolution of where I want to go to? What did they do? How did they do it? How do I get there? What are the checks and balances? See, that's intellectual awareness and intellectual curiosity, because now you're asking questions and you're always testing where you're at and where you're going and what's happening. See, I lost that. I just became so self-indulged. So it all went away. Now, interestingly, I recalibrated. I got off my ass. I went back out. I created my own models. I decided what I was going to do the next time around, what I wouldn't do again. And I reaffirmed that. And I learned how to do that through intention statements. And I really corrected my mind, because that's the only thing you actually control or own in this world is your mind, right? And then I was dedicated. And for 14 years, I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I wasn't going to use other people's money. I wasn't going to have anybody in control of my company. I was going to help independent business owners grow and scale and create massive value. I wasn't going to buy their business. I was going to give them a piece of my business in exchange for trusting and working with me. And then they would give me a piece of their business if I helped them create value. And I blew that up, generating 50 million of profits over 14 years. And then built that company to a domestic, a North American based powerhouse. We sold it for 77 times EBITDA, 151 million. I shared $45 million with every one of my customers that was with me originally, and every one of my employees. I had 188 at the time. And I engineered this whole thing from 2009 to 2016, then reinvested another $1 million in re-engineering it, and then getting ready to take it to market. Here's the interesting thing. All of a sudden, I had $85 million. Sold my business. I took a $1 billion company in 36 months to $4.5 billion with the team internationally. I was so caught up in doing everything. I was so excited. And then all of a sudden, they came to me and said, we don't need you anymore. You overperformed. And now all of a sudden, I disconnected again from the business. And I made enough money that I was like, do I really want to go do it again? What if I invest the money and lose it? What if, and all of a sudden I got scared shitless. And this is the funny thing. The same thing I went through when I had no money and lost my company, I went through again, but I was worth almost $100 million. I lost myself again. I lost my purpose. I got afraid I was going to lose my money. I was afraid I didn't have the courage to go and do what I always had dreamt of doing. And I started questioning myself. And literally I got to one of the lowest points of my life as a rich guy. I was lower than I was as a broke guy.
Wow.
Because I believed that I settled and I didn't have the courage. And I was too comfortable. That whole thing you talk about, comfort. Bought a house in Cabo, started screwing around with all my buddies, going on international trips, golfing all the time. I spent about 18 months doing that. And I literally gained 30 pounds, started drinking all the time, and I hated myself. That was actually the toughest moment in my life. And I lost another marriage in the process. So I'm just here to tell everybody, you don't know what you don't know until you experience it. And there are catalysts in your life. And it's only in reflection that you recognize it was a catalyst. You don't see it in the moment. And when you think things are good, personally, professionally, and financially, something's going to break. And it can be your family. It could be your finances. It could be how you feel about yourself. It could be your health. So I now have the mindset that there is not a moment of time where I cannot go out to 10 years from now and ask myself every single day, what am I known for? What have I done? Who have I helped? What do they say about me? What do I want them to say about me? What did somebody write about me? And every time I take a step forward today, I go out to that moment, and that corrects who I am today. So
man,
that has been my journey, and it comes with a lot of pain and a lot of road rash.
And I was just gonna say that, brother. I could feel the fuel that you have. I can understand why now. Like, it all makes sense why you 10x in this, because what you were able to do is turn all that pain into fucking fuel. And very few men are able to do that. So I want to honor you, brother. Honor you for doing that, because for sharing the story, the powerful story. This is exactly what this podcast is about. We get rid of all the fluff and we go to the core. The core is there's men out there that are suffering, whether they have no money and they're suffering because they have money. All comes down to fucking purpose. Purpose. Why do you do the shit that you do? Because at the end of the day, if you don't have that purpose, whether it's a purpose just to tell people like, fuck you, I'm gonna show you I can make it, or the purpose saying, fuck, I'm better than this. I'm better than this, man. You give me goosebumps, because I was going through a time when I was in the same fucking place, man. And I know how hard this shit is. And the people around you will pull you. So you have some good friends, man. You have some good angels around you, some good prayers around you that you're still with us, man. So I appreciate that story. That is, anybody who's listening to this, that right there is real. That was raw, and you're able to watch it in video. You could see the emotion that Brandon has, because you can't make this shit up. This is when you turn pain into fuel. So from that place now you have all this fuel, Brandon. Now you have all this fuel. Now you're gonna how do you develop now or you select your partners? Because your partners have to be in the same vibration, the same alignment. So now I see how you're taking this on, and you said, "Fuck, there's a lot more that Brandon can do. There's a lot more that I'm gonna do." How do you bring those people, select those partners, so they don't drag you to the same unconsciousness before, but they're pulling you, man, to that?
Yeah. So
direction?
So here's the thing. So the more concise you can be about what that 10-year picture looks like, the more you can start coming back into the moment and aligning. See, in my past 2 relationships, I fell in love, we got married, and had no idea where we were going, and then grew apart because the things I loved and the things they loved weren't aligned. And so all of a sudden there's tension, there's friction, there's resistance, because I didn't know to talk about what that 10-year picture looked like. And so I couldn't get aligned with somebody in now for what that looks like then. And so unfortunately, 2 different times I grew apart. I was unwilling to do that a 3rd time, by the way. So what I learned is the more clear you can be about what that 10-year picture looks like, the better decisions you can make 10 years earlier. And so now I married the most remarkable human being in the world.
She's amazing, brother. I see the pictures on Instagram, man, and I have.
Oh, she's smarter. She's smarter than she is amazing. I mean, she's beautiful. She's kind.
And you could see the energy that both of you guys bring, and you could see the connection, And my wife and I, we have a podcast. We've been married for 22 years. And
congratulations, by the way, because that's its own.
Listen, business is easy, brother. Like I could do business all day long. Marriage, fuck, man. That's when the shit fucking hits the fan. That's when you know what you're made of. But my wife and I, we have a podcast. It's called "Got Money and Purpose," right? And we talk about all the time. It's like, man, when a man and a woman come together and they create a power energy. It's not about you being her better half or she being your better half. Is about you becoming one. You are a whole man, she's a whole woman, and both of you guys come together, fucking create power, becoming a power couple. So you attracted, you equal. You attracted that version of you that's gonna fucking push you and listen, it's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be easy. But it's gonna be fucking worth it, brother. It's gonna be fucking worth it. So now you're attracting 100%. That. You're attracting that energy, brother.
And for us, when we aligned, and then we asked the question, like, okay. And she went through that cycle with me, because we've been together now 7 years. So she went through that whole cycle with me. But we sat down one day, and we were just talking about this morning, actually, because we pulled into our old condo. We still work out in the gym that we've had here in Arizona, and our new house we moved in after 4 years of building it. And we were laughing today when we were walking to the gym. She goes, remember 4 years ago? Because that's when I was at that spot where I was like, whatever. So she found Grant and Elena Cardone. But what we did do is we sat down. So here's the thing. We were like, okay, that future state we have together. So whereas before I would think about myself in 10 years, I just didn't think about all implications. So she and I went through a process of And she learned this from Elena's book. She said, let's you have your 10-year picture, I'll have my 10-year picture, and then let's create an our 10-year picture. And let's prioritize our 10-year picture, and then the non-negotiables for the individual things we want to do, and then let's support each other there. So we did that, and we were like, okay, well, obviously we need to go find. Now she and I knew that we wanted to. I reaffirmed and she reaffirmed, like, we want to do this thing I've dreamed about and that she's been dreaming with me along the way. And so we said, okay, what do we need from a mentor? That was one of my mistakes too, when I lost my way in previously, is I stopped looking up to mentors and quantifying what I want out of a mentor. And so we were like, we want somebody who's at the next net worth target that we want to have. We want somebody who's working with their spouse, that's an example of a husband and wife working together. We want somebody who's doing something still actively in business, not retired, because we had a lot of friends like that, but that's not where we wanted to go. Fourth thing, we wanted somebody who was doing something that we could complement or that could complement us, not compete against, because that would create different sets of restrictions and constraint. And then we wanted somebody who was willing to teach us, like somebody who would say, like, I'm willing to spend time and energy. In fact, he's calling me right now. Grant Cardone's calling on my phone. So we had 5 very specific things, and then we were like, let's go find those examples. So we spent 6 or 9 months trying to figure out, pinging people and asking questions, because we were clear about what we wanted, but we just couldn't find the right fit. And then all of a sudden she came in and she goes, we should look at some of these social media guys. And we should, and I'm like, no, they're all full of shit, because I was a traditional business guy. Yeah. So most of those people I would see, I'd be like, I had 200 Instagram followers and it was family and friends. I'm just like, I don't believe in any of that. And then one day she came to me and she goes, you got to look at this Grant Cardone guy. And she showed me a YouTube video. And I was like, man, this has got to be a joke. Cause this guy's like running with his hat on sideways, hey, running in front of the jet, look at my cars. I'm like, this is really a joke. So she goes, no, you gotta understand the thing we don't know how to do, which is get attention, and how to look at how many social media followers, and look what his business is, and look what he's doing with real estate. Like, he's a legit business guy, but he's using these methods he's created to get attention, which is why he's on the top influencers in the world. And so she goes, read his book. So I resisted it at first because I didn't like the first YouTube, but then I listened to the book. Well, it was 4 years ago that I was in a rut. And so I started listening to his book, going out and running. And then I was going through all his books, listening to him while I'd run. And because I was 35 pounds overweight. So I wanted to get rid of the weight, and I wanted to rewire my brain. And so I started creating that 10-year picture. And then I just started getting in the rhythm of the things he would say and connecting to those things that fit into that 10-year picture. And all of a sudden I walked in one day and I told her, let's go to GrowthCon and see if this guy's for real or not. And we went to GrowthCon in 2019. It was the most remarkable experience, but I also met all these businesses that we'd been looking at for years, and they were all checking the box. And I was like, this is home for us. I knew that in the first half day. And then I watched his work ethic. And fortunately, one of my dear friends, John Maxwell, was speaking there. So he and I went to dinner the night before, and I'd worked with John for 10 or 12 years. I worked in his business with him. He's been one of my mentors for 20 years. He knows everything about me, good, bad, or indifferent. And I told him, I'm coming to see if this makes sense. And John pulled me up on stage after his talk, and he told Grant didn't even know who I was. And he said, hey, these people are family to me. And so when Grant and I met, I said, I got a way for you and I to add a couple billion to our names and really help people, like in a way that they don't even know is imaginable. And he goes, that sounds intriguing. So he and I started a conversation. Fast forward, it'll be 3 years in March. We've been business partners, and we've created an enterprise that's just his and my new enterprise is worth $500 million now in less than 3 years. And we manage over $1 billion of independent businesses and helping them 10x their business. And that number will be 5 billion in another 36 months with everything we have going on. So,
man, so fucking proud of you, man. Especially knowing a brother from another mother. I mean, you've been through the trenches, you've been through the tunnel, but not very few people make it. Very few people make it to the tunnel, man. So Congratulations to all your success, man. I'm looking forward on continuing to see the growth that you bring into the community, and especially knowing that your intention is in the right place. Because when we do interviews and we select people for the podcast, we vet them. We want to make sure that you are serving with the right intention, and I could feel that through you, man. You definitely a king. You definitely have your king's code, and if you ever need anything, brother, the Next Level community is here for you. So I appreciate you being here.
I appreciate that. And thank you. Honestly, thank you for having me on your show. It was certainly a pleasure. Awesome,
man. So before we end, what are 3 things that you could share with the audience, especially in this times of uncertainty? Man, we have, the war that's going on right now. We have, we just came out of, we're not even coming out. We might come out of this pandemic. What are you seeing? What are the 3 things that you could share with the community saying, hey, these are the 3 things that you could focus on in order for you to 10x your business this year?
Yeah. So look, I think I talked about those 3 T's: transactional, transitional, transformative. I think that 10-year picture's transformative. I think though you get there through daily transactional commitment. And then the middle T is transition. And as soon as you get in transition, the first thing most people want to do is back off of what makes them uncomfortable. I think the 3 things I would tell you is that pick your transformational picture. Forget what's going on right now. Who cares? Like all those things you mentioned. So what? Like there was stuff going on 10 years ago and 20 years ago and 100 years ago. Something's always going to go on. The resilience is what differentiates people with that turn into a king versus somebody who goes back to a peasant. So to me, and I think of what's happening right now in Ukraine. I mean, look, you got a guy that was an actor who became the president, who's on the front lines right now, willing to die for his country. Like that's a king.
Yeah, absolutely.
So look, I guarantee you 3 months ago, he did not think he would be sitting there trying to figure out how to survive today. So shit happens fast. And the true test of what kind of person you are is in that moment when you have the most amount of pressure and how you react to it. But devoid of a 10-year picture, you get lost anyways. So the fact is, pick your 10-year picture, accept that in the transactional engagement, daily transactional engagement, accept that it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be hard, but you're moving to something. And then in the transition, just acknowledge and accept it's your responsibility to be resilient, not for yourself, because see, the true test is the influence that you create with the people who trust and follow you and want to succeed. They're looking up to you. And if you could own that, if you could own that people around you, even if they're thinking you can't do it, there are people that want you to be that example. They need that example. That's why the president of Ukraine's walking around with his team, because he knows he has to. When he gives up, everyone gives up. And so if you accept the responsibility that everything is bigger than you and you're an example to somebody, you may not know who that is yet, then when you get in that moment of pressure and that transition, when you move from transaction to that transformation, when you're in that uncomfortable place, just find that resilience that people are watching you and somebody's just needs you to break through so you can teach them how to do it.
Awesome. Fucking solid, man. Solid, man. So I want to share my three takeaways that I got from you. Number 1 is there's always a story. Like, don't think that because these guys are already made it in social media or they were successful, there's always a story. And we have to understand that the greatest stories were created by adversity. I mean, the fact that you share your adversity with us makes it even more real for guys to believe that they could come out of the tunnel. The second is return on impact. Don't worry about the return investment. The return investment is going to happen as long as you have a return impact. As you can see, Brandon's emotions is based on the impact. You're not looking just how to make another $1 billion. You're going to make $1 billion because you're looking to impact the world. And the third is, man, if you're not focusing on the big picture, if you don't create a 10-year plan, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to be able to make it. So thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. It's been a pleasure having you at the King's Code podcast. Anything we could do for you, we're here to support you. And I'll see you next time, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Awesome. If you're ready to find the edge, go to kingscodebook.com to get the latest copy of my book, The King's Code. This book will help you find the clarity, the certainty, and the purpose that you need in order for you to lead with power. Go to kingscodebook.com and find your code to the edge now.